Good Saturday morning, everybody, and thanks for joining me for Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid. I'm a little out of breath over here. I had to run up here. If you are out on the roads, make sure that you are being very careful. It is a mess out there on the interstates. It's pretty tough to see, so make sure you're being careful while you listen. If you want to call in and talk to me on the hotline, 615-844-5600. Again, that's 615-844-5600. And you know, I'm excited to talk a little college baseball today. You know, you got both Tennessee teams that have won, with Vanderbilt winning last night 10-8, evening out the series, and Tennessee taking game one, which attempted to be game three. They're having a hard time getting the series going, but two big wins last night.
When you look at Tennessee, you know, everybody expected so much with them being such a young team, a lot of these high recruits. But I think, albeit things may not really come out the way they want them to this year, their future is bright. Their future is really bright. And Vanderbilt, now they're starting to get into those tough, that tough tenure of their schedule with Arkansas here today, the rubber match here. So it's going to be fun to watch these two teams out of Tennessee. But we all know, if you know me, my UT resides in Austin, Texas. So it's just happy. I'm just happy to see some Tennessee teams doing something.
I mean, Tennessee baseball does have and Vanderbilt as well, but Tennessee definitely has a history of being pretty good at baseball. So, I mean, it's not just recent history with Tony V there, but no, I mean, I would rather be, and I talked about this, I want to say it was a couple weeks ago, I'd rather be Tennessee right now than Vanderbilt. I mean, whenever we were talking about it then, there was a bigger separation on the East.
Oh, for sure.
Between all the teams, but now it's really evened out. It's becoming a whole lot closer, and Vanderbilt's really fighting right now to have that home field advantage for regionals. And, I mean, across the board, though, if you look at, let's see, Vandy's 36-17, 18-11 in conference, and then you have Tennessee at 37-17, 15-13 in SEC. But, I mean, right in between that, you've got Kentucky at 36-16, 16 wins, 16-13 in the SEC, Florida at 41-13, 19-10 in the SEC. So, yes, I think Florida is going to be someone to reckon with in the tournament, but I think Tennessee's just hot at the right time. They just have to learn how to play on the road. That's the big thing for them, but I would rather be Tennessee right now than Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt last night, they completely changed up everything. You had Devin Futrell that was pitching, that normally is the game 3 starter, and he was pitching last night, and it was a rough start for him. Arkansas got up on a quick 3-0 lead in the first inning, and then I want to say he ended up retiring, I think, the next 6 after that. So he ended up getting back on track and giving Vanderbilt some time to get their bats going, and they definitely did that. But, man, it was not the best start, and that seems to be pretty common with Vanderbilt, though. The other team always gets the start, and they're always almost playing to their opponent. They have such a talented roster, and I mean, just look at what Enrique Bradfield did last night. I mean, complete robbery, home run robbery last night in the top of the 9th. It was Kendall Biggs. It would have been a homer. It was a hit to deep center, and he climbed the wall, snagged it, and stole him of the home run. And, I mean, that would have made it 10-9. And, I mean, talk about some momentum shift there in the top of the 9th. If that had been a home run, who knows how that game would have ended up. And then Arkansas could have been 2-0 going into game 3 today. So that was such a big snag by Enrique last night to make sure. I think that's what really solidified that win, was giving them that, making sure Arkansas did not get that momentum shift.
Yeah, and at Vanderbilt, I mean, when it comes to baseball, excellence is expected. And they have their days where it's like, now, come on. Let's come on now.
No, they really do play to their opponent a lot of the time. And, I mean, especially some of those midweek games are not games you should be dropping. And they were, because they played to their opponent a lot of the time. They've been doing that since the beginning of the season. And it's rung true throughout the remainder of the season. Now that you're 3 days away from the SEC tournament. Where has the spring gone? Where has it gone? It is insane that only 3 days away from that tournament, and a team that's not going to be seeing Ole Miss. What happened to them this year? I mean, talk about on top. I mean, that was really the Tennessee team last year that everyone was like, oh, like they're okay, but like they haven't really like hit their stride, and then they started hitting their stride towards the end of the regular season, and then really made that run. And so, man, what a team that did not perform this year.
Yeah, and when you look at the SEC, I'm looking at the last 3 national champions?
Yeah.
And you have 2 that are bottom feeders in the conference, and Ole Miss is the only school in the SEC with a losing overall record. Well, obviously a losing conference record as well, but an overall losing record. And people fail to understand that the SEC beats up on each other more all across the board than any other conference. Like I tell friends all the time, let's put Vanderbilt, let's take them out of this as hypothetically speaking. Fans, do not take what I'm saying, because we live in that type of world now. Do not take what I'm saying as facts. This comes from an opinion base. Let's take Vanderbilt and put them in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten. This is a team that could easily win 6 to 7 games a year. You put them in a group of 5 conference, they damn near win the conference.
Yeah.
That lets you know how much the SEC beats on each other.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. And whenever you see some of those injuries coming, I mean, it's tough because you're seeing it come in SEC play, and then whenever you get to bowl game, it's like, well, they're playing these opponents and getting beat by some of these opponents that you would think, oh, well, it's the SEC. Well, yeah, because they've already been beat up on all season long, and they aren't playing with a full team, which I know not all teams are playing with full teams, but I mean, there's some really big key misses in some of those games because of the beatings that they take in the regular season.
I would take, it's funny, like you see some of these bowl games, you'll have a 7-6 Mississippi State team playing North Texas. And, and I'm like, we could go out there and beat North Texas with our number 2 quarterback. Let's just go ahead and do some math. You remember, I'm sure you played video games growing up. You remember on NCAA college football game, if you were winning by a certain margin, you had this option where you can put in mass substitutions. And I'm sure that some of these SEC schools, their mass substitutions are a little bit better than some of these, hence why they're Power 5 schools. But it's just funny to watch. It's funny to watch. And I watch, a lot of SEC baseball, when I get the opportunity. But, Vandy is kind of near and dear to my heart because, one, they're literally here in the heart of Nashville, off West End, and they're successful. And Tim Corbin, throughout his tenure there, has really built that program. And look at the model he's built, not only at Vanderbilt, it is the trickle-down theory to a lot of the schools in the SEC. Because let's be real, in 1989, that's when I was born, a lot of people, the SEC is not what it is now across the board. It's not what it is now. So it's been fun watching not only Vandy baseball, but I probably gonna lose my job when I say this, but I've been cheering for Arkansas too. I've been cheering for them too. It's fun to watch them win. So
well, last night on the broadcast, Chris Burke was on the call. Great Tennessee baseball player, but Chris Burke was on the call, and they gave him a trivia question of what coaches were coaching whenever. So Vandy's Tim Corbin and Arkansas's head coach, I'm blanking on his name right now, of course, but they started coaching the same year. And I want to say it was 21 years ago. And they asked Berkey who else was coaching during that time. And it was incredible how many coaches he named. The one he really struggled with was Alabama's, and I don't know if he ever got it. But, I mean, they've been both of those coaches. There's only one other that's been coaching longer, but the SEC has some very tenured coaches that, I mean, baseball in the SEC has definitely picked up, and I would say that Tim Corbin is a big part of that. I mean, I think anyone that watches college baseball would say that. What he's done at Vanderbilt and with the Vandy Boys brand, that has just exploded, and it's been really impressive to watch. And I've mentioned it many, many times, working those games, you just look at that roster, and it's just completely stacked. And last night, Sam Hilbalke, he was talking about, yes, it was their senior day yesterday, but some of them are trying to get into grad school and maybe come back for another season. So, I mean, most people, they're like, let's go, let's get drafted and get that check. And they're like, no, we like what we got going on here. They're having fun playing at Vanderbilt. It's not that they're building just this powerhouse that's all business, business, business. They are all about the business, but they are having fun. And the fact that they're wanting to come back and do grad school at Vanderbilt, talk about difficult, and still be a student athlete, it's just incredible. It seems the culture that Tim Corbin's also has instilled, not building because he's been there. It's what's instilled there.
Yeah, and then in the Fighting Dave Van Horns at Arkansas, you know, what he's done for 21 years, it's incredible.
No, it absolutely is. And so you have Vanderbilt and Arkansas today at 2 p.m. You also have a doubleheader for Tennessee and South Carolina as they try to get in all three games. They got rained out on Thursday. Game 1 yesterday got rained out. They are having some weather trouble in Columbia, South Carolina at Founders Park. So game 1 will be today at 2 p.m. as well, I believe.
So who you got in that game, Tennessee or South Carolina?
Tennessee. I mean, I'm an alum. I've got to go with my alma mater. They got to get these wins over South Carolina if they're really wanting to get a good seed in the tournament. I mean, this is going to make a statement.
Watch.
Beating South Carolina?
No, this is what I'm going to say. Watch Tennessee. If they can do what they need to do, watch them in the SEC tournament. I'm telling you, if they do what they need to do, that young team is going to get some confidence.
Well, that's what I was saying before is this team has really struggled on the road. So for them to get game 1 last night and then maybe try to take the series today, that's going to be huge for them to get some confidence on the road. But you hear that music. Man, I love me some Bruno Mars.
I like him too.
He's fantastic. And whenever we come back from this break, Star Physical Therapy will be joining me because it is the 3rd Saturday of the month. Hard to believe. Lexi Hayden will be up next.
Located at 5410 Murfreesboro Road in the heart of Laverne, City Slickers is one-stop shopping for all your liquor, beer, and wine needs and has been a multiple winner annually in the Best of Rutherford County voting for Best Liquor Store and Top Wine Shop. Featuring the lowest prices, the best customer service with unsurpassed knowledge, City Slickers offers the largest craft beer selection in Rutherford and southeastern Davidson counties and has beer on tap at its Growler filling station. City Slickers also sells mixers, sodas, snacks, tobacco products, and the Tennessee Lottery, and can place special orders and assist with all your events and even wedding planning. Make sure you follow City Slickers on all their social media or just give them a call at 615-280-7469. That's 615-280-7469. Located in the heart of Laverne, City Slickers.
I've got a unique vacation idea for you that's right here in the United States. If you're ready for a vacation that's fun and downright affordable, listen up. It's driving distance for many of you, so no planes, no airline delays, no hassles. It's Branson, Missouri, the entertainment capital of the Midwest. Live music for everyone. Branson has 3 beautiful, enormous lakes, water attractions, live shows, great food, and tons of entertainment. It's a perfect vacation for you and your family, or if you're retired and you want to have a great time. And you can stay in Branson for as low as $99 a night. Please understand, this is not a timeshare offer. It's a real vacation for as little as $99 a night. We've got a free vacation guide we want to send you right now. All you have to do is call for complete details. Get your free Branson, Missouri guide right now by calling this number.
800-413-3953. 800-413-3953. 800-413-3953. That's 800-413-3953.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops. We've been serving golfers since 1968. Let us help you find the hottest gear from bags, balls, shoes, and apparel. All in stock at the best prices. Come in and test drive the latest arrivals from Titleist, TaylorMade, Callaway, Ping, and more. While you're there, get custom fit by one of our golf experts. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee. Shop us in store or online at EdwinWattsGolfShops.com.
Wow, Total Wine really does have everything. I found your favorite bourbon, an awesome vodka, and Ruthie.
Ruthie?
That's me. Always happy to help. Honey, Ruthie found that amazing Cabernet you loved.
Oh, yeah. That Cabernet was really good.
And we have it for the lowest price in town.
We've got to get another bottle. So glad we found Ruthie.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly, be 21.
It's a Bill King Show.
Somebody asked me, this ascension of Tennessee football, is it sustainable? I think it is sustainable. Their recruiting ranking school. You can get A-plus personnel to Rocky Top, Tennessee. And the state is now way better than it ever was in its past, producing players.
Weekday mornings beginning at 6 on Sports Radio 560 on 95.9 FM.
Welcome in to the Star Physical Therapy segment. Every third Saturday of the month, a therapist will join the Power Hour to educate and inform how they are working with female athletes. If you're looking for a physical therapist, call Star Therapy at 615-863-2760. That's 615-863-2760. Or visit one of Star Physical Therapy's 60 locations. You deserve the most knowledgeable and skilled physical therapists in the industry. Star Physical Therapy is ready to serve you.
Welcome back to Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid. I'm Sammy Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. Call in, talk to us, 615-844-5600, 615-844-5600. And you heard it. We got Star Physical Therapy with us in studio. I'm so excited. It's been a couple months since somebody's been in studio with me. So,
well, thank you. Glad to be here.
I said earlier before we went to break, her name is Lexi Hayden. But that's really all I said. So, Lexi, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a physical therapist with Star Physical Therapy, obviously. Grew up in the Franklin area, was like in sports all the time during growing up, and ended up kind of specializing with soccer. Played travel, played Olympic development, ended up playing collegiately for a little bit, and then pursued my career otherwise. Ended up being a strength and conditioning major in Appalachian State, and then pursued my doctorate of physical therapy in Belmont. So kind of stayed around in the area a bit. And after treating for a few years with our general orthopedic population, started to specialize in pelvic health and really fell in love with it, and kind of found my niche and a really big need for our patient population. And that's kind of what I've specialized in now.
And whenever we talked a couple weeks ago, I had mentioned I do not do well at hospitals. I get so grossed out. So I promise you, stick around and listen to us. I promise we're not going to get too nitty gritty.
No, not at all.
But before we get into all of that, you played collegiately. So let's talk about that. You went to University of Alabama, Huntsville, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And so talk to me about playing there.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved playing. Played center mid. Was the one that was running all over the field all the time. Had a great team, great coach. Unfortunately, left a little before my time. Just it was time for me to leave, and I actually ended up transferring to Appalachian State. Ran the club program, ran club soccer, and played the whole time I was there as well. So sports were never far from my mind. And then I continued playing even in adult leagues through PT school, and then through 2 of my 3 pregnancies as well.
So you said whenever you transferred, you ended up going for sports medicine. So how did you kind of get into that?
Sports medicine. Yeah. So I have always loved the medical field. I actually, I've had several siblings who have had serious medical needs or issues. And so I've always been interested in watching it kind of evolve and how it affects people's lives. And as I continued on my kind of academic career, I fell in love with strength and conditioning, loved to lift. I mean, I was in there doing spring training with our football team, teaching multiple of our varsity athletes proper lifting protocols and stuff like that. And I absolutely loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can I figure out how to make this into a career? And I wasn't ready to be a strength and conditioning coach because they have to get up really early, and I wasn't ready to do that. And so I ended up taking a few years off, and during that time I worked at a physical therapy clinic, and this was in Chattanooga. There's a lot of like ultra athletes in Chattanooga, so like the really long distance runners, the ultra long distance biking, all of that. And so we saw a lot of that in our clinic. And it was so cool to be involved with that because these people were just like, they were going to go till they couldn't go anymore. And it was really neat to be part of the team that was able to keep them going, right? And so I was like, oh yeah, I should do this. And then ended up coming back to Nashville, starting at Belmont for my doctorate in physical therapy, and then continued on through there. So it was a great experience.
Talking about some of those ultra athletes, this is a little off the rails.
Yeah.
But whenever I was living in Chattanooga, the Ironman was there.
Oh yeah.
And watching them swim across the Tennessee River, I mean, just incredible to do that. But I also was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could ever do that.
Yeah.
Just that river is absolutely disgusting. I can't imagine the mental preparedness they had to have had to get through swimming through that river.
Yeah. I'm going to say definitely we're not swallowing any of that water. For sure.
No, absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
But you are at the Franklin Clinic off Bedford Way now.
Yeah.
So is that where you ended up getting started with STAR?
I did actually. I have been there since I've graduated. Started, like I said, into outpatient orthopedics. Was doing a lot even for some of like our high school athletes, like, you know, all the shoulders, all the knees, all the backs. I loved it. And pretty early on in my career, we started seeing the need for pelvic health in the area. And we had brought in another clinician. She was kind of getting that foundation laid, starting the program. And she kept being like, Lexi, like, I really think you would do well with this. And, you know, immediately I'm thinking, pelvic health? Absolutely not. Like, what are you, crazy? And so, but as I kind of watched her treat and the people that she was treating and the impact that she was having, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is really, really cool. And then I ended up needing pelvic health during my pregnancy and then following my first pregnancy. And after I saw just kind of everything that they were able to do and the things that I was able to get back to, and how quickly I was able to get back to that, much more than I thought I would, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, like, why are we not doing this for everybody? Why are we not, you know, expanding that program? And so I just dove headfirst all in, and now that is all I do all day, every day. And I see just a complete gamut of people from, you know, very kind of like our older high school and older teen 20s, you know, not necessarily just pregnancy, postpartum. That's a small part of what we do, as we talked about before, but you know, and just kind of seeing people all throughout their life that are dealing with things that are related to the pelvis, and, you know, hips, low back, groin injuries, all of that. That's kind of what I do now.
Yeah, no, that's immediately what I thought, given I just had a baby a year ago,
Right.
was, pregnancies. But I mean, you also have like hip replacements.
Absolutely.
That you have to work with those patients and help them through that. But I mean, just one thing that really stuck out to me, though, whenever talking to you, you said that I put it in quotes. Oh, you'll have back pain. Oh, because you're pregnant, you're just going to have back pain. And that's a quote that you hear some of your patients say that they heard from their doctors. And that was something that really resonated with me because I had sciatica during my pregnancy. And maybe if somebody had just helped with me work something, I wouldn't have had such bad sciatica.
Yeah.
And my doctor said, it could be worse. It could be like my sister-in-law who's limping all over the place because she has sciatica, and I laugh at her. And I'm like, can you just have a little bit of sympathy for me? But I needed that harsh reality also to just toughen it out. But, I mean, you shouldn't have to toughen it out. There are better ways to cope with things.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I even mentioned to you, like, our pregnant athletes, like people that end up being in a pregnant state during their athletic events, and they're all of a sudden, told, oh, you can't do this, you can't run, you can't lift. Well, that's like a huge part of their identity, right? And so knowing that there are people that can help them continue on through that athletic kind of venture during that time of their life can be really helpful, not only for the mental benefit, right, but the physical benefit for it as well. And obviously, having somebody there to guide you through that to make sure that everything is staying safe. And obviously, we work with the OBs and, making sure that everybody's medically safe with that. But, I think knowing that there are options to be able to work through painful situations, work through some of those common issues that we see, and then knowing that you can continue on with that stuff safely during pregnancy is a huge benefit, and something that a lot of people often don't realize.
And not realizing it, I think, is the biggest thing. So many people aren't educated on that. And
Right.
It's so fantastic that you do this. And it's really because you work with one patient and she says, or he, that if it's a hip replacement, but especially whenever talking about pregnancies, if she's talking to her friend and says, oh, well, I went to Star Physical Therapy and they were able to help me with this.
Yeah.
Maybe this could help you out too. And it's really just getting the word out. And then the education really comes with it.
Absolutely.
And that was one thing we talked about on the phone was talking with one of my friends about just how, I was told how you're not supposed to work out during pregnancy, or hey, make sure you don't lift anything over 5 pounds.
Right.
And it's like, well, aren't you preparing for probably the hardest thing your body's ever going to have to do? So would you stop running and then go run a full marathon?
No.
No, you gotta prepare.
Right.
And what better way than to also prepare by keeping at the forefront of your mind your pelvic health, because where's the baby got to be coming through?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So I think just the education part of that is just so huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always, anybody that I ever work with, whether it is for a pregnancy issue or whether it's just for, general leakage or pain or any of that, we always encourage our patients to be knowledgeable about their body, because the more that you know and understand about your body, the better you are to be able to advocate for it. You know when something's wrong, right? And so being educated on what is normal, what is common, because those are two very different things, right? And being able to kind of advocate for yourself to your providers, like, hey, there really is something going on. Like, this is what I want to address. And then having the knowledge to be able to safely talk about that, I think, is great.
And you just talked about the leakage,
Yeah.
Which brought up in my mind, you work with some athletes.
I do.
And I never thought about it until you said it, but work with some athletes that they could have some leakage if they're jumping around, for example, gymnasts.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually was just reading some very recent research articles. One was actually from 2020, but they were looking at kind of the rate of incontinence for female athletes, specifically like elite and collegiate levels, and it is rampant. So we have so many of these athletes that are unfortunately, peeing on themselves, right? And having some issues with that nobody really talks about. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that we can work on. And we don't just see it in gymnasts, we see it in our, jumping athletes. So soccer, basketball, track and field, distance runners. I think one of them even mentioned handball. I mean, all of those sports that are creating these really big, like, pressure points.
Or even dancers. Dancers was one you mentioned the other day.
Yes, dancers as well. Like, they have to do so many of these just amazing, like, almost freakish things with their body, right? And so what we can do is be able to step in and help them get to the point where they're not having to, wear additional things or have some of those embarrassing events that happen during trainings and competitions. And that's a really, really cool part of what we do, is to be able to get people to feel more confident in their sport.
And whenever you think about dance or gymnastics, I think of, we had one of the Fisk gymnasts actually on the show recently, and just talking about the empowerment of those two sports. So especially, I can't even imagine being out on the competition floor and that happening whenever this is such an empowering sport. So I'm sure building that confidence, I mean, that is such a huge part of both of those sports.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think anytime that we can have anybody feel confident in what they're doing and not be worried about, is somebody gonna see the pee running down my leg? Or, they're also thinking about that when they really should be focusing on all of the amazing, crazy things that they're going to be doing on the, on the beam, on the bar, on the floor, and on the stage. Like, that's what they should be focusing on, not trying to hold in things that they don't need to hold in, right?
No, absolutely. And again, if you're just now joining us, I have Lexi Hayden from the Franklin Clinic off Bedford Way from Star Physical Therapy joining me. Star Physical Therapy joins me every third Saturday of the month, and I'm so excited to have Lexi in studio with me, and we have barely scratched the surface about everything that we're going to be talking about. I mean, we haven't even talked about hip replacements
I
yet.
know.
I mean, so much pelvic floor health that we could be talking about. So stick with us. We have a whole lot more for you. You're listening to Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you can give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code FOOTBALL at checkout. That's harrys.com, code FOOTBALL. Enjoy.
Do you hear that? Asthma triggers are everywhere, from dust mites, pet dander, and pollen, to smog and smoke. An asthma attack can strike anywhere, anytime. Be prepared with quick-acting Primatene Mist. Clinically proven to open airways quickly. It's the #1 FDA-approved asthma inhaler available over the counter. Primatene Mist. Breathe easy again. Use as directed.
Today on Hey Culligan's Smart Home, Smarter Water Softener, here's Kevin.
Hey Culligan, can a smart water softener lift those heavy salt bags for me?
Kevin, it can.
Wait,
It can? Yep, the smart high-efficiency water softener from Culligan can alert your dealer when the salt needs to be replaced, and they'll do it for you, so your water stays soft and you stay away from lifting the bags.
I mean, I could lift them if I wanted.
No judgment here, Kevin. We're happy to do it, and we're already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Attention high school sports fans, are you an armchair official? You know, the parent or fan who constantly yells at the referees and loves to let everyone know just how bad you think they are. Well, if you think you could do better, then get in the game and prove it. It's time for you to suit up and make the calls where they actually count. Every sport in Tennessee needs more officials. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
All new spring deals are here at Lowe's. Start planting your garden this weekend with Bonnie 11.8-ounce vegetables. Buy 4 for $10. Plus, liven up your patios and decks with fresh blooms. Select 1.5-gallon hanging baskets or 2 for $16. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 5/17. In-store only. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
It's the McFarland Show with Darren McFarland and Fox 17's Justin McFarland.
Jim Wyatt.
Sing it, Barry. Sing it.
My input. Looks like we made it.
Justin.
Are you kidding me?
You did it, man.
Jim Wyatt. I've been asking Jim Wyatt questions for years. This is the first time that Jim Wyatt has ever asked me a question.
The McFarland Show with Darren and Justin on Nashville Sports Radio WNSR.
Welcome in to the Star Physical Therapy segment. Every third Saturday of the month, a therapist will join the Power Hour to educate and inform how they are working with female athletes. If you're looking for a physical therapist, call Star Therapy at 615-863-2760. That's 615-863-2760. Or visit one of Star Physical Therapy's 60 locations. You deserve the most knowledgeable and skilled physical therapists in the industry. Star Physical Therapy is ready to serve you.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Sammy Kincaid. I'm Sammy Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. Call and talk to us. 615-844-5600. 615-844-5600. I mean, who does not want to talk about some pelvic health, Lexi?
Right. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Everyone. I have Star Physical Therapy in studio with me every third Saturday of the month, and I'm very excited to have Lexi Hayden, who comes from the Franklin Clinic off Bedford Way. And so we just started talking before the break about some athletes that you work with and talking about that leakage and how that could be really embarrassing. So what are some of those exercises that you do with them to help prevent that?
Yeah, so a big thing with our athletes, and usually the type of leakage we're talking about is called stress urinary incontinence. So stress urinary incontinence means that you basically cannot handle the pressure that is being produced. And so what we work a lot on with those athletes is pressure management. That comes through breathing techniques, proper bracing, proper core control, which we don't necessarily think of because these are like our really strong elite athletes, right? But sometimes they don't know how to properly coordinate the muscles in their core. And then working on proper jumping form, even kind of down to what the foot does, because even what the foot does impacts the ability of the pelvic floor to work well. So we take a very individualized approach to what each of these athletes do and how they're doing it when they experience that leakage. And then, like I said, we really delve into all of the aspects of what's going on with that.
And it's wild that even something in the foot or core, just how the body, everything really plays into each other and impacts each other.
Absolutely. And I, with all the people that I treat, like I had mentioned before, I mean, education is a huge part of that, and them understanding why it is that we're doing what we're doing. Is I'm really well known for using a lot of really weird, crazy props in my treatment session. So one of the big things that I use is a balloon. And so when we talk about the abdominal canister, I use a balloon to explain that. And so your pelvic floor sits on the bottom. And so if you were to take a balloon and squeeze it, especially if you squeeze it more at the top or straight in the middle, and you're creating this really big pressure gradient, well, if you look what happens at the bottom, it kind of drops a little bit, right? We don't really want that happening in our body. And so being able to kind of show the athletes, hey, when we use your abdominals and we brace this way, this is what can happen to your pelvic floor. This may be why you're experiencing your urinary leakage. So let's maybe change where that contraction is happening. Can we bring it up more from the bottom so that now we're lifting the balloon rather than squeezing it, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I don't think it's self-proclaimed. I think they call you this at your clinic, but you're the core queen. You're the core queen. So I'm going to have to ask you for some of those exercises.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime we're dealing, it doesn't matter if it's an upper body injury, a lower body injury, anytime that we have a stable base to be able to pull and lift and move from, especially for those high powered motions, we're going to be a better athlete. We're going to be able to throw a ball harder, throw a ball farther, spike a ball harder, right? Jump higher, jump longer, kick harder, you name it, you're pulling something from your core. And so, I really pride myself on getting away from a lot of the traditional core exercises. And I think a lot of our high school athletes, when they see me come out of my room and they put their head down like, oh no, she's coming towards me. I'm going to have to do a hardcore workout today. But that's something that, again, we want to mimic a lot of these motions and forces that are happening in our athletes so that they do know how to adapt and overcome them.
Yeah, and we did not talk about this, but my junior year of high school, I was hit by a drunk driver, messed up both of my knees, but especially my right knee. And from that, I ended up going to Star Physical Therapy for physical therapy. And whenever you think of physical therapy, at least me, obviously not you because you're a physical therapist, but whenever you think of it, you don't really think of it as a workout. You think of just as a way to get better and, for that, whatever that injury is, to get better. And I remember just some of the exercises that they put me through. It was just so unique in the ways that they were, because you're working on a lot of muscles that you don't typically would work on in a workout. So it was a tough workout just because you're hitting a lot of those smaller muscles to help build around whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And so whenever you talked about unique core exercises, that's immediately what I thought of, because some of the stuff that they were doing for my knee, I was like, holy moly, what is happening
right
now?
Yeah. And I like I said, I make people use balloons. So I make people blow balloons while they're doing like an abdominal exercise or while they're jumping, or I use a lot of resistance bands to kind of create rotational forces, side bending forces. We use a lot of stability type things where we're maybe stressing one side versus the other, because that's really what your pelvic floor is meant to do. It's supposed to be a stabilizer, right? It's supposed to anticipate your movement, create a nice stable base, and then you're able to move from it. And so when we basically need to create those situations, and so that's really where the creativity just gets real fun.
Yeah, no, I bet. And I'm just really thankful because I didn't have to have surgery, and I fully credit that to how Star Physical Therapy was able to help strengthen and create that stability around my knee. And so I am grateful, and that's a big part of why I'm so thankful that y'all are a sponsor of this show. But we haven't even talked about hip replacements yet. So you work with patients that are pregnant. You work with those athletes. You also work with people that are coming back from surgery.
Absolutely.
So walk me through what that's like.
Yeah. So a lot of the surgical patients that we'll see are either hip replacements or hip labral repairs. And when they are doing that, if you ever have a chance to look at a pelvis and a hip. So your hip bone directly on the other side, if you look inside of the pelvis, is a huge portion of your pelvic floor. So they share very closely the vicinity, right? They share blood vessels, they share innervations. And so a lot of times after these surgeries, everything gets really flared up, right? Because you just had a major surgery, especially if they replace the joint. And so these pelvic muscles end up kind of responding to that trauma in that area. And so, a lot of times when these patients are still complaining like, oh my gosh, my hip pain is still there, right? Well, could it be not from your hip, right? Could it be from something that's on the other side of your hip? Absolutely. And so we see a lot of that we're able to work with these patients that have maybe some of those lingering symptoms. after their surgeries, and then we're able to kind of strengthen, take off the pressure from those pelvic muscles that might have been having to overwork because of the nature of the hip prior to the surgery. And I think that's a big area that a lot of people just kind of forget about because it's inside the bones. We don't see it. It's just kind of not on the forefront of my mind.
It's the black box is what you described it as.
It is. The pelvic is the black box of our orthopedic world. We just kind of like forget that it's there. We blank it out. We don't look at it. And so when we really kind of look at what's all happening in the hip, in the pelvis, and even in those lower abdominals, like that's a really big, important area that we don't want to miss. So that's really where being able to kind of see or work with a pelvic therapist during that time, especially if you're still experiencing some of those issues, or even having, some constipation or urinary leakage arise after that surgery. And you're like, wait, I didn't have any of this beforehand. Again, that's kind of our cue, like, hey, we probably need to look at those muscles. And then going a little further into that, when we have those hip surgeries, so those labral repairs, those, resurfacing or a true hip replacement, our core control ends up being a huge part of that rehab process because your abdominals really impact the positioning of your pelvis, which is then going to impact the positioning of that new joint, right? And so if we don't have great core control coming out of that surgery, then we don't have the best ability to control the motion of that new joint. So that's another place where I absolutely love working with these patients because, again, you get to do lots of fun, weird core stuff with them and, get them stronger, be able to better align that pelvis and hopefully get them to a point where they're not going to be impacted with that.
Yeah, and one thing that we had talked about before was back pain, and I'm sure that whenever you have hip surgery, your back is probably
not happy.
Yeah. So how do you if somebody's having that back pain after, when do you really, how would you describe, or when do you really see that like light bulb go off? Like, oh, these are probably connected.
Yeah. So after.
Well, you know what,
Yep.
Alexi, we can visit that in a little bit.
Sure.
Since we did hear that music, but because I'm sure that there's a lot of light bulbs that can be going off,
Absolutely.
But whenever we get back from this break, we'll talk about that light bulb, and I also want to talk a little bit about how do you break down those walls.
Yeah.
So I'll have you get prepared for that whenever we get back from this break. But you are listening to Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. We have Star Physical Therapy. She's joining me for the whole show. How about that? I love it. I love it. Stick with us.
Today on Hey Culligan, how smart is your water? Here's Tracy.
Hey Culligan, I think my water might be dumb.
Good news, Tracy. Your water's not dumb, it's just not talking to you.
You can make my water talk.
No, but the new Culligan Smart Drinking Water System can talk to your phone to tell you when your water filters need changing and help you meet drinking water goals.
Now that's some brilliant H2O.
You said it, Tracy, and we're already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Here at Total Wine & More, you'll find what you love and love what you find. I like this flavored gin, but want something new? You'll love this one. Wow! Oh, you're good. Find what you love what you find, only at Total Wine & More. Pickup and delivery available at TotalWine.com. Drink responsibly, B21.
Hello, this is Philip Cox from Strike and Spare Family Entertainment. Are you looking for new and exciting things to do with the family during the spring and summer months? Thanks to Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers, you don't have to look any further. Sign up today for Kids Bowl Free, a summer pass starting in May where kids 15 and under receive 2 free games of bowling every day. You can also purchase a family pass that allows you to join the fun as well. Visit any of the 5 local Strike and Spare locations in Hendersonville, Murfreesboro, Donaldson, Hermitage, and Tusculum to register, or just visit kidsbowlfree.com/Strike and Spare. Strike and Spare, where fun is bowling.
Breaking news.
Tax refund shock is everywhere, but what is it?
My tax refund shrank.
Mine too.
The culprit? Pandemic-related stimulus payments and tax credits expiring. In this reporter's opinion, you need a tax expert.
Hey guys, Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund.
And Tax Prep is 50% off? Going there now.
50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Today on Hey Culligan, how smart is your water? Here's Tracy.
Hey, Culligan. I think my water might be dumb.
Good news, Tracy. Your water's not dumb. It's just not talking to you.
You can make my water talk.
No, but the new Culligan Smart Drinking Water System can talk to your phone to tell you when your water filters need changing and help you meet drinking water goals.
Now that's some brilliant H2O.
You said it, Tracy, and we're already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Celebrate the history of our national pastime at the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown. See priceless treasures that'll bring your baseball memories to life. Connect with events that have shaped and changed the game and our country. Our stories to tell, your memories to share. Plan your visit today at baseballhall.org.
The Jim Rome Show.
Man, I love Facebook. That's not in any way a time suck. It is such a valuable use of your time going on everybody else's page and posting how beautiful they look when they don't. They don't. You know they don't. Come on. Anyway, do what you want with your time. I don't want you to tell me how to spend my time. I won't tell you how to spend your time, but I will tell you this. Stop cropping out pictures and including yourself and then acting like, hey, my hair looked great that day. My makeup was perfect that day. Just do what I tell you. With regards to this, you'll be fine.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on Nashville Sports Radio. Download the WNSR app and listen to the Power Hour on the go with your host, Sammy Kincaid.
Welcome back to Power Hour, Sammy Kincaid. I'm Sammy Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. Have Star Physical Therapy with me in studio today, Lexi Hayden from the Franklin Clinic off Bedford Way. And right before that break, we're just going to jump into it. We were talking about when does that light bulb really pop off? Because, I mean, if you have back pain, you don't really think, oh, this is probably from my hip surgery or from the pregnancy or from whatever it was, injury.
Right.
6 months. I mean, even I was saying a year ago, you know?
Yeah, light bulbs would be going off before then, hopefully. So, especially if we're talking that kind of like surgical intervention, we expect that kind of 6 to 8 weeks of, just recovering from the general trauma. And if certain things are kind of sticking around or really not making much impact, that's the time that we want to start looking like, could there be an impact somewhere else? Or if there's something that maybe didn't change at all from the surgery, particularly that hip or that back pain. And those are the times where we're like, okay, maybe we need to start looking a little deeper. And there are some special tests that we maybe will do or some very specific questions that I know I've taught a lot of my orthopedic therapists in my clinic to ask to where they're like starting to see those light bulbs and it's like, hey, maybe we should go see Lexi and just have a conversation about that.
And if somebody is thinking, hey, I want to have that conversation, but, we mentioned it earlier, people, you call it the black box because people don't want to talk about it.
Right.
I mean, it could probably be very intimidating to come in and say, hey,
absolutely,
I think I need to talk to somebody about my pelvic health.
Yeah.
Something's bothering me. And they may not even know that's the root of the problem, though. What could you say that would, if they're listening, they can tell how personable you are.
Yeah.
But if somebody is a little nervous to come in, what do you say to them to maybe kind of help ease them of how things get started?
Yeah, so I usually just start with some really good general information. I explain to them the muscles, and I really kind of strip away of everything else that we kind of get freaked out about, and I break it down to the muscles. And with all of these muscles, just like what we do with any other muscles, we can test them, we can move them, we can see how strong they are. And all of that can happen to whatever comfort level that you're comfortable with. We're able to work around a lot of different things. And so we kind of start from as broad as we can, work our way down to, again, whatever that patient is comfortable with. But I'm never going to force anybody to do something they're not comfortable with.
Absolutely. And I mean, as I said, if anyone's listening to this, they can tell how personable you are. And it's been absolute joy to have you in here today. I mean, there actually hasn't been somebody from Star that's gone 3 segments of the 4. So, I mean, that just tells you right there. That just tells you right there how comfortable you make everyone around talking about something that is that black box, in quotes. So I really appreciate you, Lexi, for joining me. And thank you, as always, to Star Physical Therapy for being sponsor of Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid. And thank you to Ted and Adam Johnson.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you so much for joining me. And again, you got Vandy Boys coming up at 2 p.m. Listening to Andrew Allegretta on that call later on today. And thank you so much for joining me. Until next week.
On air and online, Sports Radio WNSR, Brentwood, Nashville.
This is Countdown 2 on the BetQL Network.